Spinning Rods Lab. Introduction, Materials, and Procedure. Students will observe how static electricity is generated when a rod is rubbed with a material. They will observe that the type of charge the rod has depends on what the rod and the material are made of. They will observe how the rods interact with each other depending on their charge. This will be done by leaving one rod on an insulated pivot spinner, and the other rod will be held in the hand and brought close to the free spinning rod. The material list: 2 plastic rods, 2 glass rods, some fur, silk, an insulated pivot stand, aluminum foil, and thread. This should be a 1-period lab, 5 to 10 minutes for introduction, 20 to 25 minutes for observations, and then finally 5 to 10 minutes for conclusion and discussion. Here are the anticipated results. Like charges repel and different charges attract. Unrubbed rods will not do anything. Rubbing one rod but not the other will cause the rods to attract. Rubbing both similar rods with similar materials will cause them to repel, and humidity can greatly affect the results. The students will repeat the procedure for various cases. We have 2 types of rod, plastic and glass, and 2 rubbing materials, fur and silk. A lot of science manufacturing companies offer these in one package, so you might look that up if you don't have them in your lab. They're not terribly expensive. Set up the pivot stand on a level surface. Place a rod on the stand according to the data tables, which you'll see on the next few slides. Bring a second rod close, but don't touch the one on the pivot stand. Then observe if the rods are attracted, repelled, or if nothing happens. Record your observations. Perform the same procedure for all the combinations in the data table, so this will be 4 different runs. To complete the lab as quickly as possible, rub the rod in the pivot stand first, then bring the other 2 rods near before exchanging the rod in the pivot stand for the next one. And then just repeat for the various combinations that you'll see in the data tables. The first time you do it, and again you'll have 4 cases here, right? And this time we have the plastic rod not rubbed and the glass rod not rubbed, and we'll match that, and we'll fill in a little matrix here with the plastic rod not rubbed, glass rod not rubbed, and then same thing down here. So perform the lab and then fill in a data table. Data collection table number 2. This time the rod held in the hand is rubbed with fur and silk, and the rods on the pivot stands are not rubbed. So here's our rows, here's our columns. So for example, when the glass rod is silk rubbed, and that's the one held in your hand, and the glass rod is not rubbed, that's when you fill this in. And the glass rod that is not rubbed is on the pivot stand. And the last data collection table, this time the rod held in the hand and the rod in the pivot stand are both going to be rubbed with silk and fur. So here's our information for the rods that are held in hand, and these are where it's the rod in the pivot stand rubbed. So for example, the plastic rod held in hand, fur rubbed, and the plastic rod in the pivot stand fur rubbed, you would fill in this box right here. Please click over here to get a video demonstration of how to perform the lab.